you said you came up with the idea, the concept after Comic-Con. Your apartment was flooded. You were living in a hotel.
Yeah.
And, just looking at the different people that come in and out. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was, like you said, perfectly. I was housed in a hotel for about 3 months, and I used to sit by the pool because that was actually the spot that got the best internet, or outside somewhere.
Right.
And I would just sit there, and I would watch all these crazy people and all these different people, and I think because I would sit there for so long, and
Right.
I kind of just became a part of the lawn chairs, people would have all these crazy conversations next to me, and I'd be privy to all their personal details.
Right.
I was always curious if they were willing to have this conversation in front of me, or do this in front of me, or let people see this. What the hell were they doing where they were going back upstairs and getting into their hotel rooms when nobody else could see them? And so I find that idea fascinating, about a rented space that you go into, you make it your own, you take over it, it's yours. If somebody comes through the door, they're
Right.
invading your privacy. And yet, it's somebody else's the next day, and it's somebody else's the day after that. And the
Right.
idea of this kind of temporary space, an idea that because it's not yours, because it's not long-term, you can kind of get away with things that you might not be able to do on a regular basis. And if given the opportunity, what would people do?
Right.
And that's kind of how this whole concept kind of got started.
Well, I know the idea kind of could have taken many different directions. Did you know you wanted to go, did you want to steer towards like a dark?
Well, I think, there's a couple of things that go into that. One, me being who I am and with my sense of self, I think, this next film that I'm working on, I think it's hard for me to steer away from a little bit of dark comedy.
Right, right.
Or that's very much just a genre that I find very fun and interesting, and something that I can relate to personally, and kind of, that's where I land whenever I'm thinking creatively. That's kind of just my tone and my style.
Right.
It was very important to me, though, and the idea of them, all 5 of them being so different, that I would create this platform and these ideas, but that I would let the directors really have their voice through that, so that they're independent, and that they all are able to, and the whole point of this is coming on set, having a set created for them, and being able to play and really express who they were.
Right.
At the same time that I had this overall idea and this way of tying it all together, it was also very important to me that they all had their voices heard. So it's kind of a mixture of those two things put together.
Well, how did you choose the directors that were involved in the project?
Honestly, when it came to the directors, and just about every layer of this is looking around me and seeing who was there. I was literally, John's been my best friend since I was about 14 years old. We worked
Right.
together on so many short films, little projects, claymations, animations, whatever, you name it. So, he was a shoo-in, and I also feel like he's so talented, but, fresh out of art school, nobody really knows him yet. Nobody's giving him an opportunity, and so I was just so excited because I knew that he could just knock this one out of the park, and I feel like
He did. He did, definitely.
Yeah. He was so much fun. And then Brandon Nicholas cast me in my first film when I was 18, another film when I was about 20. We've been really good friends since, and that was just really nice for us. We haven't seen each other for a few years to kind of catch up and work together again. Petra Papadopoulos, I think he's known me since before I've known him, when I was a kid. He was friends with the family, and Laura Henry was my acting coach and teacher for 4 years. Eric
Wow.
was the only person that I didn't know beforehand, and he was actually just set to act in Petra's. But we ended up having a director drop out due to a documentary that they were working on that was taking too long, and sure enough, I heard little whispers that Eric was interested in becoming a director, so we got on the phone. He understood the material, and I just think he did an absolutely amazing job. But that kind of stretched out to everywhere. It's like looking around me. I live in LA. There's tons of production designers, art, set decorators, musicians, scripts, everything that are just
Right.
A lot of people are either A, especially when I'm making this film, out of work,
Right.
or B, working on things that they just really love because they just had to make ends meet. So it was really important to me that we create an environment and a set in the film that people really wanted to be a part of. And it was really nice when we got to the final screening last Friday because everybody was so happy and just had so much fun. And I feel like that's my dream come true right there.
I know John and Brandon kind of had to work together a little bit, since theirs kind of fed into to one another's, whereas like the other stories are a little bit more separate. Did any of them, like, how much did each director know about the other stories going into it? I know you said you tried to keep them separated.
Most of them didn't know anything. I
Okay.
think because Laura was flying in from the East Coast, she had almost no connection to anybody else. Eric literally flew in from set of this TV show, shot, and then had to fly out either for Skyline or for a show. I'm not sure, but he ran off set and ran to LAX, and I think just barely made his flight. And so the only two that were actually involved in all of the stories are Brandon. He had to know all of the stories because I felt it was really important for him to have the last story to be able to wrap that all up.
Right.
And John, just being John, who's around a lot, knew a little bit of the other stories, but none of them had read the script. Some of them had met one another, but I think a lot of them just met each other at their premiere the other day for the first time. So I kept them pretty separate. And I think that was how they wanted it and how it was it worked for them. It was about them achieving their goals, and then it was about it coming together into one big happy film.
Right. Well, there were 8 rules. What were those 8 rules that they had to follow?
They had to enter the room, show their character entering the room.
Okay.
They had to have more than one character, some kind of interaction. They had to find a prop in the room they would then use in their story. They had to then leave a prop in the room that would be left for the next director to utilize. They had to unpack something. They had to use the phone at one point. They had to order room service, and they had to incorporate the maid. There you go. That's all.
There you go. See? Well,
it was all the reason why I came up with those rules is because I realized that we had so many different ideas, so many different concepts, and even playing with genre. And it was very important. I knew I had to be able to tie this together. They had to have something that was similar throughout them all, and we even break it by the end a little bit when we get to Brandon. But it was very important, and that kind of gave us the tools, especially when I was sitting with an editor afterwards, to be like, look for these things. These things all have to play together. And so it just kind of gave us added to the through line, which of course is tied in with Diva Zappa and the maid character who has to be involved in every story and has to progress in some way.
Right. Well, it definitely flows. I know she's kind of the gel, but it gels well together. I don't know. I liked it a lot.
That was the goal.
What did you like most about making the movie? I don't know. Working with.
Nobody's asked me that yet. That's very funny. Everybody asked me what the hardest part was. Nobody's asked me what I liked. I have to say, the fun of working on the best and the worst part about working on a movie set is that it's up and down. It's up and down. This is wrong. Problem solve. Problem solve. Problem solve. I love that. I kind of love riding that wave. I love the chaoticness. I love taking all these random people, all these random ideas, all these lights, all this everything, and outputting it into one 73-minute piece. I just think that the amount of work, the amount of time, the amount of equipment, the amount of everything that went into it.
Right.
Hit this one memento. And I just think that's so cool. I know that everybody who makes a film, they go through that. I love puzzles. I love putting stuff together. So the idea of, it's for me, it's all just one big puzzle. It's not, there's the good comes with the bad, and sometimes the pieces don't always fit, but as long as you just keep playing and keep going and keep moving forward, eventually it'll all come together. And I don't know, I loved every part of it in different ways. I have to say, acting for me in it was so much fun. It was kind of after you've been a producer and had to put something like this together, when you actually just get to sit on set and do one thing. I was always so stressed out about acting before. It was always so hard. Right now, it's just really fun. I'm not saying that it's easy. It's just really fun because I get to just do one thing as opposed to, sometimes I'm a grip, sometimes I'm a production coordinator, sometimes I'm a producer. That's kind of the way that small budget films are made. So it was nice to be able to focus on one thing. But, working with all of these people, dealing with all of them through the good, and, there wasn't really that much bad, if I'm honest. It actually was a pretty easy production in terms of that. But dealing with all the problems, all these things, I love that. I love going through all that. I think that's the best part of filmmaking. So, yeah. Does that answer that question?
Yes, it does. No, that was great. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Absolutely, I appreciate it so much. It was a really fun interview, and it was, the Twilight Zone and the Hitchcock and everything was a huge influence on
Yeah.
me, and I'm obsessed with the Twilight Zone, so the fact
Oh, me too.
that you see any of that in there, it's brilliant. So, I just think